Welcome to We Know Marketing, We Promise. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Naoma, and this is a show about how to actually build a brand that works. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about messaging and how it really is a core pillar of your brand, though people don't treat it as so. So I'm kind of excited about this episode because Kelsey's really going to be talking about it from a social side, and I'll be talking about it, how it aligns to your brand, and how your brand is actually the thing that extracts how the messaging should be, what it should sound like, those kinds of things. So, I'm curious, Kelsey, how do people come to you with defined messaging when they need social?
Rarely. That's definitely one of the things that we have to pull out of them usually within the first session, the first strategy session, which is also why I don't bring any client on unless we do a strategy session, because they either don't have a brand or they have no messaging, they have no positioning, all of these things that give us like the meat of what we would do for their social. And so they have a business, but a lot of times they don't really know what the essence of their business is. They don't have a brand, which would also include their messaging. And so it is hard. That's why we start everyone with a 3-hour strategy session, because it is rough. And what I'm realizing is it just keeps going backward, because I've implemented the strategy sessions because people will come to us with no brand or no messaging. And now people are coming to me and they don't have really even a business. They just have they've been charging some bucks for this service that they love to do and they're really good at. And they have no invoicing, they have no contracts, and I'm like, how have I, and it just keeps going back further and further.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
but today we'll talk about,
we're not going to talk about that today because that is a whole other can of worms. But today we're going to talk about messaging and how it's actually damaging you for not having it defined, because you probably have it. Your website probably has messaging on it. You probably have a tagline. You've probably been posting on social, and none of it probably sounds like it all goes together or is cohesive.
Yeah. It might just sound like ChatGPT. And if that's the case, then you might sound like a million other businesses that are using ChatGPT to put together their messaging every single post when you're asking, write me a caption about this, something.
Oh my God.
And you're not giving ChatGPT any messaging strategy.
Yeah.
Or positioning.
Yeah.
People do it all the time.
Yeah, I know. I'm very, very tired of the rocket ship emoji. Oh my God. Unless you're NASA, you really should not be using that emoji.
Yeah, I'm I can't think of a single time that the rocket ship emoji would be necessary.
I don't know. I feel like we need to use that on this episode because people are blasted into space with no messaging here.
They're just in the abyss.
They are. They're
floating like Interstellar.
It's fine.
They're just out there.
Just out there. Oh my God.
So don't just use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can be a huge asset for your messaging, but once again, everything has to have a strategic foundation. It has to have somewhere to start. And if you're not giving ChatGPT what it needs to effectively write your messaging, then or your caption, then you're gonna kind of be lost.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna step on my soapbox here for a minute.
Yay.
Yeah, I know. A lot of creatives and a lot of even advertising people are clever is awesome. Be clever, be funny. Sometimes that doesn't align to who you should be. So don't do that, because in the pursuit of trying to be clever, you become extremely unclear. The times that you can be clever is if you are a wordsmith, you do have an agency that can definitely play with your messaging and be clever but still clear, and that's the fine balance. Because a lot of people are like, I need to be clever. And I'm like, that just rocket shipped over somebody's head. And then nobody got that.
And then it's time to use the rocket ship emoji.
This is allowed.
When you're being so unclear, why not just throw that on there?
Everyone's
gonna end up in space anyways.
But yeah, so I know people will like to say clever is fun, but if you cannot say exactly what you do consistently, concisely, you've already lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's hard because social media is so fun. And so you get this like fun idea that is clever because you know that your brand and you know your business really, really well. And you know your customers and clients well too. And so you're like, oh, I love this idea. This is really fun, playful, clever, but it can almost be too mysterious to hit. Like you might be hitting someone who's already your client, but is your social media really there to retain your client with that type of messaging? Maybe not. Like you do want social media that represents your brand really well and professional and polished and that you guys have a good vibe and all of that, but like you're putting out your marketing and your social media to hit like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and then also represent like the experience your clients are already having with you.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
tell you, if they're using rocket ship emojis, there is no funnel. We are in
Yeah, you're
there's a
like-
black hole. There's no funnel. So you just lost them. They're in space.
they're in space. Yeah. And that is a hard thing with social media, because if you are basing it off of a strategy, you have to understand that there are people that have seen your post 21 times. There are people that have seen your post 500 times, like that have been following for a long time. And there are people that find your page for the very first time and they're a non-follower and your content hit the explore page for some reason. And so how do you create a piece of content, or at least a content plan, that is hitting each one of those types of people and building trust with them? And that's where you really don't have a lot of room to be super clever.
Yeah.
Unless that is literally a part of your brand.
Yes, but I think a lot of people mistake that they think a lot of people think that they're funny and they're not. So don't try to be clever, just try to be clear. Okay?
Agreed.
You're not funny.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
But back to clarity. One of the things that I've noticed when we're building a brand, I've had a client and he's like, I want to leave people confused but curious. And I'm like, no, we don't want to do that. That's the opposite of the goal of a brand. We want it to be so clear so that people can auto select themselves in or auto select themselves out. And so I think a lot of the times when you start a business, you definitely have a lot of imposter syndrome and you deal with it a lot. And so, one of the ways that I've seen messaging get messed up is because the owner or the C-suite level or anybody at the top does not feel confident in what they do, what they stand for, what problem they solve, and who they solve it for. So everything feels jargony.
Yeah.
To make up for the confidence.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And if you're the social media manager in that position, there's not a whole lot you can do except ask for a strategy session to ask a little bit deeper of questions. Like if you're like a marketing director and you're running, marketing for a company, a bank or whatever, I see it a lot with like financial industries for some reason. You can ask for a strategy session where you can ask more and more questions. And a lot of times if you come to them and you're like, hey, I really want to build out this, messaging structure and framework for the company. Can I meet with you for an hour to ask questions? Like usually that's going to go over well with someone because they see the intentionality of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then that is kind of the source of truth. And so if something is being posted or said that's really jargony, you can then have something to go back to based on data, the brand, all of those things. But I think where I see a lot of people get hung up, and this is off of that topic, more of like that overthinking per post, because you either don't care or you care too much is what I've seen. And so the don't care is like ChatGPT is writing all of your...
There's a rocket ship emoji for sure.
Right. And it's probably pretty heavy with jargon, I would assume.
Yeah. We still don't know what it says.
Yes. Or you go so far into it that you're spending hours and hours and hours on a caption, and then you reach a place where it ends up being, you get so burned out. Like you cannot spend that much time on a caption. And that is the main reason why you need a messaging framework and you need a strategy, because then you have this document to go back to and filter it through. And then you have ChatGPT who you can give this document to and filter it through. Does this caption align with our messaging? Does this caption align with our social media strategy? Like, no, it doesn't. Here's how you could tweak it to make it sound better. And then you write it in your own words. But I think a lot of people overthink it or they underthink it. And there has to be this like middle ground, which I've found you can only stay in the middle ground long because social media is such an animal to tackle. So much time goes into it. Is if you have that strategy and you have something that is like your anchor point with your messaging. Otherwise, you will absolutely burn out.
But the messaging should also follow not just social, but it should be on your website.
Yes.
It should be your emails. It should be all of the points that a client can touch is where your messaging is affected. So, in my opinion, I think messaging is one of the strongest parts of a great brand over their visual identity.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
It could be tied for me, but your messaging needs to be locked in because it touches so many aspects of your brand. It doesn't just touch social.
Yeah.
It touches
Well, I
a
think
lot
of the
things.
messaging on carousels and things like that,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
messaging within a video that strongly ties into the visual side of how people are seeing your brand that it would have to be a close call. But if you're not asking the questions about like all of the marketing and what is the messaging and all of the marketing, then there's a lot of information you're missing out on to be able to effectively write carousels, write captions, write scripts for videos for the social. And you could be taking your company's brand this way on social, and then the person writing emails taking it this way, when really it should all be going in the same direction. The website, like you were saying.
Everything should be like interconnected to one source of truth. And that, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it all connects back to the brand. So if email person and social person and website person are all making up their own messaging, none of it is going to sound cohesive. And that's where you get that like brand inconsistent, like where you get that brand whiplash of who is this company? What are they trying to do? So really have one source of truth and messaging that then goes out to the different areas. Like you can even, one of the things that I like to do is like, even in your email autoresponders, like vacation mode, that's a great way to inject some of your messaging and have a little fun with your brand and show more personality of your brand rather than saying, I'm out of office.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many little places where messaging can take effect and that people are not leveraging.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, how would you start if you were a brand new, like 2 years into business, how would you have them start a messaging document? What do you think needs to be part of it?
Oh, man. I mean, I can pull up our messaging document, but I think
I can tell you a few things that I would have in it.
I think there are certain things you go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, I know for sure, like, the first thing I went through was my ICP, like who is my ideal customer profile.
Yep.
Because that has shifted. So I had Stevie messaging that was created 3 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I've needed to tweak it ever since. And so it did come off of that main, when I worked with, a branding agency.
Yep.
And that's where I'm hesitant to say anything because I really think they need to start with a branding agency. But if they can't, like we've mentioned, it's like, okay, what would you do if you can't?
Like, say you can't hire a branding agency because there's a lot of people that claim to do branding that don't do it. And so I'm just going to help you out. I would start with, what is the problem that we solve? Who do we solve it for? And I would try to get as clear about your ICP as possible. Not just like, it's a woman from 40 to 80 years old. I'm like, okay, that does nothing. Be as clear as possible and be really clear about what is the problem that you solve to understand the value that you give, right?
Yeah.
What is that value, that intrinsic value that you bring to the table? And then I would say, back to the vision and back to the brand essence, what is the like attitude that my brand should have? So am I going to sound a little rebellious? Am I going to sound like your best friend? Am I going to be a trusted mentor? Am I going to sound like your mother? Am I going to sound like a beach bum. What is the identity that I should sound like that is in accordance to the brand? So like it would be really weird if you were a surfing company and you sounded like a LinkedIn bro, right? Like
Yeah.
that's weird. But if you were a surfing company and you sound like a surfer dude, that feels totally in alignment, right?
Yep.
So think of that personality that you would have, and then I would start building out some pillars. I know it'll be hard at first and those will shift, but I would think about what are the pillars, and then I would even go a step further and I would create some tone guardrails. So we sound like this, but we don't sound like this. We sound like this, but we don't sound like this. We can say things like this, but not things like this. We like to use words like this. Never use these words. That just kind of helps at least start to shape what the messaging should feel and sound like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
And
think
then you
that's
can
good.
really like blow it out. What I would super recommend is if you are in this moment where you have no messaging strategy and no messaging doc, no source of truth, do not go look at your competitors
No, not the time.
because you will start to copy what they all say.
Yep.
And then you just become another one of them. So I would really like, this is the kind of thing that I love to do, is like go sit in a lobby of a hotel somewhere with a coffee and just start to write these things out that feel most authentic to you if you are the owner or the CEO. If you're the brand manager of a company, then you need to go and ask these things to the C-suite or the owner. But sitting down and really kind of at least starting to shape that will help you a lot.
Yeah.
And then being able to create captions and being able to create carousels and what type of carousels and what type of attitude am I going to have online. Those kinds of things will start to shape a lot easier than you coming in and just asking ChatGPT to like write me a caption about brand strategy and it has no idea what your tone of message or who you are is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think once you have that document created, like Naomi was saying, then when you're writing a caption, you can then go into like, okay, it has the right tone, it has the right messaging, all of that. But then what's the point? So that's where
Mhm.
you kind of start getting to like the social strategy and the sales strategy underneath it.
Yes.
It's like, okay, the brand is represented really well, but what's the point of the post? Is this
Mhm.
like drawing in someone who's never met me before, someone who's in that middle ground, or someone who's like very, very familiar with me? And then how would this post, like, what would be the point of this post to someone I'm already working with? And then you can kind of go down the like sales journey process. And I don't want you to overthink it, but I always have my team ask, like, there has to be value in the posts that we're putting up. So like what is the point? What is the point of
Mhm.
this post? It's like, okay, it's on brand. That's fine. We got that part done. The tone sounds good. The visual rocks. Everything's good. But like, what is the point of the post? Sorry, I just shook the
Yeah.
things. So I think you then go a step deeper. Like that's all set. And then you're not just putting something out there to put something out there. There is actually some like strategic social media side of it. And you're not necessarily doing it to like please anyone, because
No.
you have a point in posting it. And that means it's probably going to align with some people and it's going to not align with other people.
And that's what you want your brand to do
That's
anyway.
exactly right.
You want it to be a fence. You want
Yes.
people to be like, "Oh, I need to be in there,"
Yes.
and others to be like, "I never want to see that person again."
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a brand, is to attract and detract easily.
Yes. So what I'll often say to you know, the girl on our team that's writing captions, or you know, whatever, is, okay, this caption, I don't know what the point of it is. When it goes to like, everything goes to CEO approval and I get to read it and see it. And so it's like, what's the point of this? And I'll just ask the questions, and if they can argue for it, then I might be able to understand it. But we also would need to be able to argue that to the client. And then also sometimes really, really soft messaging on social so that you're not offending anyone and there's no like conviction led in some of the captions that you're doing, that can also deter people away, because it's like you're really like, you're not standing for anything.
Yeah.
You're just like really soft about everything.
Yeah.
And you want to do that because you kind of fall into a people pleasing, but your brand might have like really strong convictions and a really like bold
Statement.
but it's hard to get it out there because now it's like public. It's on social. People are reading it. They're seeing the videos. You're starting to put your foot down on certain things. And what I've noticed is when we do a brand, like we'll do a social media strategy for someone, and then I take everything from that and they're like, I'm not comfortable sharing that. I'm like, well, it goes back to this though. These are the things that you told me in this. And it's like, oh, well, that's like, too bold, or that's too this or too that. And I was like, but what are you
That's
trying to accomplish here?
that's
And then
back to the confidence though.
it is. It is. And there's like a piece of people pleasing that you have to let go of when you start posting on social, whether that be your business or your personal brand. And you have to be able to stand firm on like, these are the convictions that I hold and this is what I do. And I've gotten better and better at that over the years, and it doesn't come overnight, but we call it climbing cringe mountain. Like, it's a little cringy at first because you do feel like you're putting your foot down in all these ways that you'd never have before on these platforms. But when you start to see people be receptive to it and connect you with people that are really fun to talk to and meet for coffee and work with, and you bring them on as clients, it's like you start to see the benefit of it and you reap what you sow. Like,
Yeah.
but if you don't stand for anything on social, you miss it. And what I've noticed is like where clients have put their foot down, like I don't last long in relationship with them, and they don't stay on long as clients when they soften their messaging so much to be really, really generic because they're afraid of being who they really are on social.
Yeah, they're not being courageous to live authentically, which is really hard.
Yeah.
I would say another thing that is really crucial about messaging is like how it affects the buyer's journey.
Yes.
So if people are like, wow, this sounds great. Like I kind of think about it back to like, I follow a lot of those like leadership, motivational quote things, which I do love and I share. But at the end of the day, like I don't know what to buy from you or what, like if you're just sharing this to share and you're just a content creator and you're making money off of the platforms, great. But I think sometimes people go so far into the not selling and just building the brand. And I've been definitely a victim to this, that it just, people are like, yeah, cool, love it, support, lots of likes, lots of engagement, but it doesn't sell anything, or it doesn't teach about what you actually do or how you solve somebody's problem.
Yeah.
So I think you have a fine line there.
Yeah. I have an example of this. I have a friend that runs like a resale purse company. She loves like Y2K purses. And so she'll buy them and then she'll post them on TikTok and sell them through TikTok. Which is very risky, by the way, because I'm like, do they have any authentication process? I have no idea. Protection. I won't even get into all that right now. Anyways, she had a video go viral and she got like over 1 million views. And she was like, okay, what do I need to post next? Like immediately texted me a screenshot of the like 1 million views. And I was like, well, your entire page is about Y2K purses, but her video that went viral was about how she always thought that she wanted a certain shaped engagement ring, but now she wants this type. And so it like was showing the ring she thought she always wanted, and then it went into transition and showed like a really unique stone shape. And I was like, so
Why
this
did you post that?
Exactly. I was like, this has nothing to do with like the Y2K purses that you're trying to sell. And so she was like, well, what should I post next? Because I have momentum with this. And I was like, are you wanting to change your page to attract people about ring education? Are you an expert in ring education? Like, no. And so I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
that actually was the worst thing that could happen to her page, because it took people away from the main reason they would be getting on her page, which would be to buy a cool Y2K purse. And people don't understand because it's like, oh, well, I have a video that, went viral though, and I got over 1 million views, and that's super cool. And I'm like, yeah, you should probably delete your account now unless you're going to change to a ring education account where you constantly are posting about rings, because that's what people want to see
Oh my God.
from that video. But it was just like complete misalignment, and now we're off to the races in a completely different direction.
Yeah, let me just change my whole business because of one viral post. That sounds so crazy.
I know, but it happens all the time, and it's insane the amount of business owners that come to me and they're like, if we could just get one video to go viral, like it doesn't even matter what we talk about. And I'm like, no.
No, that's a great way to erode trust.
But it's a lack of education around brand is what I'm realizing is a lot
Well,
of
it's because people treat social as just kind of throwaway, not realizing that it is a platform to build your brand on.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
With that being said, okay, to wrap this up, I think what you should do is, if you do not have a document of a source of truth on messaging, I would definitely sit down and write that, or at least start to shape it. I would also think about I think doing an audit of where all your messaging is and where it goes would be really beneficial to you.
Yeah.
Like, from, if you have um, a workflow that people go through after they get a lead gen from you, if you send out a monthly email or a weekly email or whatever, if you do texting sometimes, or if you have a mini chat and you have the auto responder on mini chat, is that also in alignment with how the messaging should sound? I would do an audit of where all of your messaging should be, and then make sure that it's all in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I have a few notes of just like, use fewer words but stronger statements. So once
Yep.
you have that document, it really allows you to take out the fluff and just like really hit to the point, which is where you come back to Naoma's statement from the first 5 minutes of this episode of being really clear and not confusing. Have a clear line through your posts, your platforms, and all of your offers. Have like a really clear line of messaging through all of those things and represent them well, like on social. So you have the document and then you start creating language and wording around like some of those stronger statements, I would say.
Yeah.
Is really important. And then just remember that your content is going to compound as it continues to like live on the page and rest on the page, and people go back and watch your content and they read your carousels, and
Get
it doesn't
on your
matter if it
email.
got 2 likes. Like, just keep going and remember that it's going to compound, because that's how brand strategy works.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think that covers it.
Yep. See you on the next one.
See you next time. And that's a wrap on this episode.
If you found this helpful, hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend.